welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today I'm going to show you a new technique called partial die cutting, and I've made it into an exploding gatefold card, and I'm going to take you through one card, and then also at the end I'm going to take you through an alternative version. So this is my card, so you can see here these elements are actually separate, so I'm going to just slide off these two belly bands and pop them to the side. And this is what we're going to show you how to do. So this is how we do the exploding style card. And this is your partial die cut here, which is out the new Occasions catalogue, which I absolutely love how it marries up here in the middle. And then at the end, I'm going to take you through how I use the same techniques we're going to use in the video to do this Valentine's Day card with a lovely little love note. So let's get started. So this card has quite a lot of elements to it, although it's not that easy, or not that difficult rather, to do. So I've pre-cut everything, and your cutting recipe will be on the blog at www.hedgehoghollowink.com, and also it's linked directly under this video just to the right. There's a little arrow and there's a direct link to the actual blog post, which will have your full cutting recipe on it. So the first thing you need to do, I've taken one piece of A4, it does work with 8.5 by 11 as well. I've cut it into half, and then I've scored each piece down the middle. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to cut my stars with the Star Blast. Put those out the way for now. And the easiest way to do this, so your card is going to be like this. And you're going to cut down the middle. So the best thing that I found to do was just to measure. I'm just going to roughly into the middle. I'm just going to grab a piece of my grid paper here. So my middle is there, and it's there. And what that's going to do, I will show you in just a second. So when you now put the grid paper out of the way, when you now do your cutting, so the first one, you're going to line up your Star Blast with your star tip against the edge of your card, and that means that your long piece here should line up round about where your score line is. So as long as you're in that vicinity, your card will work. I have my magnetic base plate here, and I'm going to put this on. Exactly as I just showed you. But just for some added security, I like to use a little bit of tape, and I use some micropore, the surgical tape, because I find that doesn't stick too much to my card. And I also stick it to this piece here, which is the piece I'm going to cut off, so it doesn't matter if it did stick, no one's ever going to know. So I'm going to just run this through my big shot, which is here to my right, just out of shot to you. So that is my first one. And when I lift this up, I'm going to peel off my tape. And I'll pop all the pieces out in just a second. You'll see that's your first half. So what happens is your card will fold, and then it will fold back on itself, and that's your piece there. So I'm just going to pop these little pieces out. And you could use the brush if you wanted, but I find there's not many pieces in here, that it's just easier to do it by hand. So 1, 2, 3. So that's my first one. And now we're going to do our second one. So exactly the same principle. So our score line is just here, and we're going to take our Star Blast thinlet, line our star up against the edge, and just make sure we're in the vicinity. Actually, I'm right bang on. I want to make sure it looks fairly straight. And again, I'm just going to use a little bit of micropore tape. This will all be linked in the blog post, so everything I use, I always list out for you with links on the blog post, which, as I say, is linked. If you click that arrow just in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see that there. And again, I'm just running this through the big shot. I'm just going to pull this out, peel the tape off. And again, I'm just going to pop all the little pieces that are left behind out. Okay. So that is our base card. So this one will go in here. These two come together in the middle, and your two stars are going to fold themselves backwards when we get to that point. So the next thing I need to do is I'm going to do the pink elements to go on top. Now I find this is the easiest way to do it, is to do them afterwards. If you wanted to stick your pink piece on and cut it, you could do that too. But what I have got here that I bought on Amazon is some sticky sheets. So these are a bit like if you put your piece through your Xyron, you'd get the same effect. And you stick it onto the back. So I'm just going to take the peel layer off of this one. And all your sizes will be linked in the blog post, so you can get a full cutting recipe before you start. There we go. I'm just going to peel that piece off. There's no sticky on there. This is sticky, and it's actually sticky both sides. So when we've cut out, we will peel the other sticky off. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to run this through the Big Shot. It's a piece of adhesive there, so I'm just going to grab, if you haven't ever seen the adhesive rubber, it's fantastic. So any little pieces like that it's picked up somewhere on my table, I can just run this over, and you can see that that's picked that up. So again, I'm going to run this Star Blast twice through my Big Shot. And as long as the stars are on there, you don't need to worry about anything else being on there. So I'm just going to run these quickly through the Big Shot. There's one. And we can pull that one off. And we'll do our second one. And I always keep these end bits because they're really good if I want to punch something small out, then it's double sticky on both sides, so I will keep those. And also keep some of the stars that you pop out the middle. That's what I use to decorate the inside of my card with. So again, I'm just weeding out those few little pieces. Okay. And the steel dies are perfectly strong enough to go through the cardstock with the adhesive layer underneath. Just grab this is my die brush, so just some of these are slightly more difficult. So once your two pieces are fully weeded out, the next thing you want to do is you're going to snip these. So I'm going to cut just along this line here as though this wasn't a border. So there's one, and I'll snip my stars. So there's one. And then I'm going to do my second one. And I'm going to now grab my initial pieces, and I'm going to do them, before I stick them together I find it's easier to have them separate for this. So the first thing I do is I fold them right back like this, and the same on this side. And then I'm going to stick this on the top. Now that sounds quite difficult, but you can see here there's this white thing that I just peel off, and here it's ripped slightly, so there's an extra bit to take off. And actually it's quite, although it will stick really well, you do have a few attempts to pick it up and put it down. Now I find the best thing to do is to open the card up, lay this completely flat, marry up this piece in the middle first, like so, then marry up your side stars, so you can just leave it hanging, like this, and then marry up your second side star. And it's quite malleable, don't worry about ripping it, you can actually move it around quite a lot. Then I do my next ones, and the same on this side. And I don't mind if it shows a little bit through. If you don't like it showing some of the white through, you could grab a dauber with some Melon Mambo ink on it, and you could just go around the edges. So that's one. See, that's really easy. And this is my second. I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm just going to peel this coating off the back, and I'll link to this sticky paper as well, because it's brilliant if you don't have a Xyron, which I don't. I find that this is really, really easy. So again, I'm going to stick my piece in the middle. You might be able to hear Tilly, who should be having a nap, but has decided that she's going to just sit upstairs for a little while first. So then I go back to my side piece, and again back to my side piece, and back to my side piece, and back to my side piece. So once all of those are stuck on, and if you don't like it, you can see I can still peel the two open like this, and I could re-stick it if I wanted to. So that's that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going, get these the right way round first. My brain's not working today. So there's my two pieces. Fold it the right way round, Alex. There we go. So your two pink pieces, you can see I'm not on top form today, it should meet there in the middle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some snail in here. And I like the two pieces, it gives it a nice thickness, which means the card stands up nicely. There's nothing there. When you give it to somebody, you can stand it up, and this just gives it that nice stability by having a thicker back. And it also means it's really easy. If you had a piece where you scored it here and here, and you had these two ends on it, which you could do out of a piece of 12 by 12 white, to get these to marry up like these do is actually really difficult. So what I do now is I just refine just slightly my folds, and I will grab my bone folder to make sure I put those now in place so they don't move on me. There we go. And the next thing I've done is I've cut some of the, I think it's Pop of Paradise DSP, and I've cut it so that my stripes will marry up, or at least they should do, like this. Okay, so you can see there, so it'll marry up, so it looks like the stripe goes all the way across. So firstly, I stick my first one down, just with some snail. And it's much easier if you stick the first one down and then worry about being precise with the second. Like that. And I have married my edge up just along here at the bottom. And the reason I don't cut my cards shorter when I first start is it gives me some room to manoeuvre. If my score lines were slightly wonky, then I can rescore it. There's lots of things that can go wrong, so I just leave myself that wiggle room first. And I'm now just sticking on my second piece of DSP, like this. So you can see the cards coming together, and I'm just going to cut this piece off the top with my paper cutter. And what this means by cutting it afterwards, as I say, I've got a little bit of wiggle room if my big shot die isn't quite in the right place, if my folds don't quite go together right, then I know I've got some room to play around because I have about 1/4 of an inch that I can cut off if I want to. So that's our base card. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inside, for which I have a piece of Melon Mambo and Whisper White. Again, full dimensions will be on the blog. There we go. And I'm just going to cut a smidgen off of this one, because every card is always slightly different, and this is what happens when you film live. So this was at 5 3/4. I'm going to take it down 1/8 of an inch, which means I'm going to take my insert also down 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to lower these two up. And then I'm going to stick down my piece of Melon Mambo, and that is my insert to my card. So this is your partial die cut piece, and then this is your gatefold card. So you have two different elements combined in there. Now we're going to do our woohoo. So to make that, I've got the die still out the same die set of the Star Blast. I have got a couple of pieces of white, and I have a piece of my leftover Melon Mambo with the sticky on from earlier. And I'm going to cut out one from my white. First of all, I'm going to cut one from my Melon Mambo because that gives me my edge. I'm just going to run that through the big shot, which is slightly to the side. And what it does is it punches out a central piece, and it punches out a border, and that's where the pink border comes from. Then I'm going to stamp my woohoo. The woohoo comes from the coordinating set Birthday Blast. So I'm just going to grab that here, and I'm going to pop it onto a block. And I'm going to stamp it into the middle, like that. And then I'm going to cut it out. And the idea with the magnetic piece, let's put it on the right one, is that I can centre it up reasonably straight and run them through my big shot. And there's my central woohoo piece to fit in the frame. Now the only thing about this is that means that you don't have a piece to stick it onto. So the easiest way that I have found to do that is to take one that I've cut out of and use that as a bit of a stencil. Grab a pen or a pencil, draw around it to give yourself a template, and then I cut on the inside of the line because then I know it'll be slightly smaller and it won't show out of my pink border. And I'm just going to cut that out. I'm quiet because I'm concentrating. There we go. I'll pop all these out of the way. So the first thing I do is I just peel my sticky off the back of my outline, and you could use a glue stick for this. This is because the sticky was on it. It's a handy thing that's already around. And now I'm going to stick my woohoo in the middle. Now you could just use this like a raised border and stamp in the middle, but I like the element being the same size. So for this I'm just going to use a little bit of snail, and I'm going to stick that into the middle. And on my card, which I misplaced, there we are, it's going to go just here, so that half the element, and you only stick it to the one half, so put a little bit of snail, which is now running out on me, just down to the middle there, and stick it halfway on, because you don't want to stick it to the second half because then you can't open up your card. Okay, so now we're going to stamp our middle piece, and I'm using my favourite new tool, my Misty. And if you've been watching our daily videos on Facebook, you'll know that there's all sorts of things I've been showing you to do with your Misty so that you get perfect results.
And if you don't already follow our daily tips, they're on our new Facebook page, which is Hedgehog Hollow Ink. So it's just facebook.com/Hedgehog Hollow Ink. So to stamp the inside, let me show you what I did on this one. So we'll make our little bands in a moment. So I've done the happy birthday with a little sentiment underneath, and I decided to punch out the birthday candles, which you can do if you want to. But on this one I'm going to do something slightly different just to show you an alternative. So first of all, I'm going to grab my happy birthday, and I'm going to grab my Stamp-A-Majig. I'm going to line my Stamp-A-Majig up at 2 inches. So this is the 2-inch registration mark, and I'm going to put a magnet on top to hold it. Now I think I want my happy birthday around about here, but I'm just going to double check it first. And the first thing I do is I close it up and I check that a straight piece, which might be the top, it might be the bottom, but there's always a straight piece, lines up with one of the grid lines on my MISTI. And I'm going to stamp it this time with the black. So this is the basic black archival pad. There we go. So I think that looks reasonably straight, but if I didn't like it, that'd give me the opportunity to go lower down the page, higher up the page. It just gives me some options by pre-stamping it onto my Stamp-A-Majig. Make sure that's well inked and stamp it down. And I'll clean that later. And then the other element that I liked was just the little swirl that comes in the set, and I'm going to do that in the Melon Mambo. And then to decorate the inside, I'm going to use some of those stars that I said to you earlier to keep, and which I'm going to peel off that sticky backing. And I'm going to put one there, the larger ones. And I'm going to make it into like a little corner with 2 of the smaller ones. Like so. And on this one on the bottom, I actually want to incorporate some of the stars and flourish off of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my card all the way up as high as I can on my MISTI and put some magnets to hold it back down again. And if you do matting on the inside of a card and then you think, oh actually I'd really like something just on the edge here but I don't want to see it all on the bottom, take some painter's tape or post-it tape, either will work absolutely fine, and you can use it as a mask. So I'm going to just mask that up here. And actually I'm going to put some down the sides too because this is quite a wide stamp. And I have painter's tape on hand all the time. And I'll link to the one that I've been using. This one's a neon one, but I also have the blue version which I can link to so you can get your own. And I find that this is a really nice low tack one, so it doesn't mark my cards in any way. But they don't do this one anymore, but they do the blue. So again, and I'm just going to take a different piece of acetate, and if you watch us on Facebook you'll know I keep all of my excess photopolymers pieces exactly for this reason, so I can offer up how something's going to look. And I want to do a stamp off anyway, so this is ideal because my first stamp actually I want to move, making sure, I want to move my card down a bit. I want to see a little bit more of it than that. So this is the other great thing about using this, so I can get that whole star in, which means I want it round about there. And because I want to stamp off, which means you ink up your stamp, you stamp once and then you stamp down again, and the second time you stamp is lighter because I'm going to want to actually write over the top of this. So I'm going to stamp it down, knowing that a lot of the ink has already gone, and that's perfect. So when I write with my black pen over the top, you can still see what I've written to my friend. And this is going back to England, and my friend has a birthday very shortly. And you'll notice that my grid paper, if you have a MISTI, is laminated. It's a tip I got from Jennifer Maguire, is to laminate, because then if you get ink on it, it literally wipes off. And what I will do in a minute is take a paper towel with some Stampin' Scrub and just make sure that I've got it all off. For the purpose of the video, I'm going to just leave it like that for now. I'm going to take my stamp off, which I'll clean later. So that's the inside of our card. I'm going to peel off the painter's tape. And then we have that nice, crisp, clear edge. So now we have our closed up card, and I'm going to do our belly bands. So the belly bands are 1-inch strip of the designer acetate. And I'm just going to close this ink pad up because I can see me put my hand in it and wrecking one of the cards. And so our belly bands just slide over the tops here perfectly to keep it shut to go in the mail. And also, if you just leave the top one on, you'll see that it stands up perfectly. That's because we've got that nice bulk on the inside. So to make the belly bands, I've got 2 1-inch strips, and again, full cutting will be on the blog post. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scoreboard, and for this I find my bone folder is much better at doing the scores for me, and I'm just going to use this as a reference. So one is at 2 1/4 and the other is at 6 1/2, and I turn it over and do the same just so that I've moulded that acetate. So that was 2 1/4 and 6 1/2. There we go. And the one thing just to remember with the designer acetate is that it has a protective film, and if you just slide your finger over the corner, you'll feel it come loose, and you can just peel it off like that. And the reason that I don't take it off until I've scored is because if I scored over these dots while the paper wasn't there, I would peel quite a lot of them away, because it's just a resist technique that puts it on there. So then, to complete the belly bands, I'm going to fold onto my score lines. And I'm going to use some washi tape to secure them at the back. And this is the Coordinating Pop of Paradise washi tape from the same suite. And they just overlap just enough for me to stick that piece down. And that just adds a little bit of detail to the back of the card. So I'm going to just slide my card in. So there's one, and that's one I've made earlier, but we'll make the second one here. So again, I'm going to put fold on the fold lines, and if you just roll it between your fingers, you'll feel some resistance when you get to that fold line, and that's the perfect place to just press it down. Again, I'll grab some of my washi tape. And I'm going to stick those two together. There we go. And that is how to make your partial die cut gatefold card. Now, one thing I also wanted to show you was an alternative card that I gave you a sneak peek at the beginning, and this is a Valentine's Day variation, and I will again list cutting instructions, or cutting recipe I should say, for this card, and also all the supplies I used if you want to make your own Valentine's Day version. But it has just the one belly band, again 1 inch, and this card comes out slightly smaller, and I made the little envelope using the love notes, and you can pull out the love you lots. Just
slide that back in. And this one I actually stuck down rather than washi taped. This is using the Love Notes lattice style die. So again, you've got your partial die cutting, and on this side I took it away completely, so it just lays like this. And rather than having a pink piece like we did here, I put some black on the back. And then you open it up. This is one of the Love You glassine sheets, which if I bring it up to the camera, hopefully you can see the nice detailing in that with the real red bow. And then that's my Happy Valentine's Day card in there. So that's a perfect Valentine's Day variation with its own little band. So all the details again will be linked to the blog post, hedgehogholoink.com, or you can click in the bottom right hand corner arrow and you'll have a direct link to the exact blog post in case you're not watching it when it's first published. Thanks for watching, happy stamping. Do email me with any questions and we hope to see you again soon. Bye.